my idea wasn't really, although I felt like maybe I was sort of pushing in that direction to sort of paint a stereotype of like, the South is great and the North it sucks, or like oversimplify things because like you say, issues pervade across the country. My idea more or less was like you yourself, I always got the sense, and maybe I'm wrong about this, that you developed sort of this sense of, how do you call it? Caring about social issues and economic inequality and stuff like that, and you being more of a left-leaning person, maybe influenced by precisely your sort of personal background and where you grew up and sort of how certain issues impact certain areas more than others, like you say. Or maybe am I wrong about that?
Oh, no, I think it's true. I certainly am left-leaning, if people want to call
communist.
it that. Oh yeah, people. Yeah, my wife keeps saying I'm a communist, but nah, I'm not a communist. But
that's what the communist would say.
Yeah, that's exactly what a communist would say. I'm the fifth estate. I'm slowly working into the system, right?
You feel like Stalin was a great guy. Basically,
there's nothing wrong. I approve of government-led mafias and wiping people from pictures. In about 5 years' time, it'll just be a podcast on me. Exactly, yeah. He was just a Photoshopper. He created Photoshop. We should thank him for his thing. In 5 years' time, this podcast will just be me speaking to myself after I dispose of Dom.
Here I was thinking I was handsome, and now I feel like
no, it's so. What was I saying? So I'm left wing in that sense, but in the north, you'll find a lot of people are left wing economically. But I think this is happening all over Europe. I think loads of people will be able to relate. They're left wing economically, but right wing socially. That's how the Conservatives won in 2019. They could pivot to the left economically, or at least pretend to. They never actually did any of their left-wing economics. But it was harder for the Labour Party to pivot right-wing socially because a lot of their members are very left-wing socially, but the Conservatives are able to adapt themselves far more than Labour Party are. They change themselves all the time. I mean, Margaret Thatcher was a change in the policy. Winston Churchill was a change, and Boris Johnson was also a change. So, I think the future for politics in the North will be a left-wing economic party, but a right-wing social party, and I think that's happening all over Europe, isn't it? I think it's Poland. They did stuff that. Was it Justice Party? I can't remember what the name is.
Truth, Justice, Freedom, something along those lines.
Yeah, you can mix and match all these names for these sort of parties, can't you? We're the Freedom of the Civics Party. We're the Civic Justice Party.
Freedom, Justice, Truth.
Lion, Rebirth,
Love,
Reborn.
Hate,
We've got something. Or sometimes they call themselves the true centrist party, which I always find incredibly funny.
As opposed to all the fake ones out there,
So the centre is actually here. That's the whole thing. But in Poland, incredibly right-wing socially was being anti-LGBT zones.
Conservative, let's
say. It's very conservative. But economically, they pushed for a higher minimum wage than the unions did.
Yeah.
Which is that's left wing, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it in Italy with I can't remember the woman's name because they change leaders every Meloni, not the I won't say Peroni the beer, but
Pepperoni.
They change their leaders every 2 years or something like that. So I don't need to remember her for long. But,
if you ask me, I miss good old Silvio. That was an Italian right there through and through.
Oh yeah, he basically started all this off. There's political scientists that say he was the reason Trump came forward and this whole he was anti-woke before woke was a thing.
Maybe.
He literally made it illegal for him to go to jail.
Yeah.
Okay, it was crazy, but the whole point is, Moroni, if I got the name right, she gives statements saying that capitalism has let down working families.
Yeah.
She's doing the socially conservative, socialist economics in a way. And I think we're seeing the same with France, with the National Rally. Le Pen. But interestingly, in France, there's also La Somme. Or I think they're a left-wing party led by Mélenchon.
Mélenchon.
Yeah, Mélenchon. He's pivoting sort of more right-wing socially, but keeping very left-wing economics. We're seeing this also in Germany. There's this female politician who's in the Linke, the left, which is like remnants of the Communist Party and various socialist parties that banded together. But she's probably going to form her own party, and she's said, we're against Heidi politics, all this stuff. We should focus on class only. And she's keeping the left-wing economics, but going more socially conservative.
Yeah.
And you see with the Conservative Party in the UK, in 2019, 2020, maybe even a bit of 2018 and 2021, they talked about how it's hurting, even today they do this a bit, it's hurting, the real losers are working class, white men. And in fact, if you're talking about education, working class white men do struggle more at education in the UK, with the exception of Black Caribbean struggle the most. But the whole point is they're focusing on class, which I would never think the Conservatives would. And even though they never did anything on class, they specifically went against free school meals that would help people who are poor. They're still saying it.
Yeah.
So you almost got the right-wingers taking class politics into a right-wing position. It's incredible. I just find that incredibly interesting. I think that's a very weird shift.
Yeah. Would you consider, for example, measures related to stimulating birth rate, maternity, support for mothers and for families with children? Those are traditionally... socially focused policies. Yeah.
Socially focused policy. And here's the thing. Most left-wing parties until the 90s supported those measures.
They invented those types of measures, didn't they?
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure, maybe the Nazis actually did, because I remember they did these medals. They did these medals for how many kids a woman would give birth to, but it certainly was used by the communist parties in Eastern Europe.
Because it's a form of social benefit.
Oh, yeah. The idea was that...
intended to help people in their day-to-day lives, support people in their day-to-day lives, and at the same time, it fulfills, let's say, a goal related to, stimulating birth rates, which a nation might deem to be important. The example is Hungary, because you brought up Poland.
Oh yeah, Hungary, they've been pushing this, yes.
Maybe there's a parallel there on that front as well.
Well, I think, what is the guy who's in charge? I told you I went to Hungary when Viktor Orban, I actually went to Hungary when Vladimir Putin was there. I saw Vladimir Putin with my own eyes. That was
And were you hungry when you went to Hungary?
Oh, starving.
Or did you have a meal?
Very good food. I will say very good food in Hungary. Very good
goulash.
Wine. I don't usually like wine. I usually like beer, but their wine was really hearty. They don't try and be fancy with it. They just say this is wine, drink it, bull's blood. But the whole. It is important to make sure that families feel they're safe. I mean, at the end of the day, most people aren't ideological, right? They just want their family, themselves and their families to be secure.
Yeah.
Ever since the 80s, it's become harder to have a family. I mean, young people in the UK, I don't know about anywhere else, are less likely to have kids until they're older because we can't afford a house.
Yeah.
We don't have any childcare options because you both have to work. You basically are giving less employment options. You have to find a place where you can buy a house. I mean, there's no work options there. You don't want people to be growing up in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to do that. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with those policies. These are policies that, like I said, the left used to push at least, and in fact there was a resurgence with pushing it when it came to the new left movement that was Corbyn in the UK, Mélenchon in France, Bernie Sanders actually had. Yeah. He had a lot of family-based policies, but the difference is that the right-wing parties tend to have more money behind them, particularly because they're not railing against capitalism. They just say they're railing against a version of capitalism. Whereas left-wing parties are more open to be, we're against billionaires in general, so billionaires won't support them, they'll support the other party. But in a sense, that's why I think these parties will fail in the same way that every other political movement has failed, because they're not... Am I an anti-capitalist? I don't know. That's something else, but these parties specifically are keeping the very systems which create the problem in the first place. Yes, they'll give more welfare to families, but we've seen what happens when you just give welfare. It can be taken away, and then once you lose that, the problems re-emerge. They're putting a bandage on the problem rather than actually doing anything about it. That's why I'm not in that camp. I just think they're missing some steps.
So you think it's populism more so than it is actual willingness to do anything? The sort of right-wing resurgence, the way, as you call it, which is happening not only in the UK but across Europe.
It's happening across Europe. It's not happening everywhere. Particularly, there are left-wing parties which are growing in certain areas. Particularly Spain, they've managed to hold off quite recently, and but that's Spain. They tend to have.
Who cares about Spain, really?
Well, that's the quote. Ed doesn't care about Spain.
Oh no, that's my quote. But
I'll take it. No, they beat us in the World Cup, so I'm quite annoyed at them. But
you should remind them of how Elizabeth I destroyed their fleet at the shores of Britain.
Oh, beautiful moment. Absolutely beautiful. We can go through English history and British history in another time, because I thought it was just... The story of the Armada was actually quite hilarious. They had a minor defeat against Elizabeth, but they decided to retreat, going around Scotland rather than just going back to Spain, which meant they destroyed all their ships.
I think any victory in the World Cup pales in comparison to that particular victory. So as far as Spain goes, you've checkmated them a long time ago. So they can have their beautiful football victories, if you ask me.
I disagree. I think 1966 certainly has the same level, at least in my opinion, but I'm biased. But yeah, it's just... What were we saying? I've lost track.
Well, I think that...
Oh, about right-wing resurgence, right?
Yeah. Well, I think your point was, and we've spoken about this before, obviously, a lot of the reason why, let's say, more right-leaning politicians are gaining popularity is because they are focusing, or at the very least, saying that they are looking at and are more concerned with sort of the everyday problems of ordinary people, and where the left loses out in modern politics. And the reason why it's losing ground, for example, in the UK specifically, is because they're not focusing on that. They've lost the middle class, They're not focusing on those issues. They're not focusing on the issues of the poor. It's more minority rights, not that you need to be necessarily mutually exclusive, but you're losing your core, the core of the Labour Party, let's say, that used to be disenfranchised people, workers, etc., are more and more people who are in that boat or in suffering from those problems in the modern times are leaning more right, because I get the sense that in your mind, at least they're saying that they care more about those issues than the left is. Something along those lines.
I don't think it applied. Maybe in other countries. In the UK, it was a bit different. If we're talking about particularly the controversial subject today, which is trans rights, when Jeremy Corbyn was in charge and they lost for 2016, that wasn't actually a big talking point. That's only just arrived in the last 3 years, particularly with COVID. So
everything starts from the US at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I'd say transgender rights have been bubbling around for quite some time, but certainly in the UK lexicon they came very, very recently. The reason why the Labour Party lost the 2019 election was more due to the fact there was a lot of internal squabbles. The old guard of the Labour Party, which is more right-wing, fought the new elected left side, and they fought against Brexit. I think that was the main thing, which many people in working class areas voted for, as they saw a way to get forward. So the left was, in a similar way, they were seen to not care about what they want, seem to be more concerned with internal politics. When it comes to transgender rights now within the UK, both major parties are actually almost in agreement in the UK. We're talking about Labour and the Tories. They're quite anti-self-ID. They seem to be going down more of a route of soft republic values. So we're talking about, imagine Ron DeSantis sort of level. They're doing a soft version of that, where they say, "Oh no, we care about trans people, but we're going to limit these."
Yeah. Let's not get too carried away. Sort of.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can cut that part out. But
No.
Let me.
Mean, not us. I mean, with the trans rights.
Oh, yeah.
The softer measures, as you say.
Well, I think we're being. Anyways, we'll
It's an entirely different topic.
Yeah, it's an entirely different topic. But the whole point, if we go back to the general theme, which is it's in the UK, the left is, or at least the left, we're talking about the Labour Party, is growing, particularly because the Conservatives have been just so shit in general. Like they're incompetent. But if we're talking about worldwide, there is a vibe that the left has become too academical. It has focused too much on ideology rather than listening to people. I read articles on every right-wing movement that comes out in Europe, and there's always a line which I find interesting. It appears in most of them. So one of them was in Greece, which was I think it's the Spartan movement, which just came out now. The Spartans is a new sort of right-wing party.
They wear the underwear and the big red capes. That's his
yeah. I find it ironic because the Spartans were very pro-LGBT. Spartans. They're incredibly pro-LGBT. I mean,
they just show up in Parliament. We are Spartans.
I don't know if there was actually a
tonight we dine in hell. Yeah.
They were actually quite bad at warfare, Spartans, considering they lost to Athens quite a few times. So I find it very funny that people...
Something an Athenian would say, Ed.
I mean, someone did a post.
This is Sparta. I'll stop, I promise.
You've got two gay men inside you. One's an Athenian, one's a Spartan. That's just Greek history. But the whole point is that there was a line inside it where they said, we're replacing what the communists did previously. In the same way that this happens in several articles. There was a time when the left was very down to earth, and I think that was like in the 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, 50s, and 60s, maybe in the 70s. But there was a period where they did, and they were in the working class communities, helping these communities via social programs. The right is doing that now. We're talking about, these nationalist parties. Brothers of Italy started doing this sort of thing. I mean, and the left is wondering where everything went wrong. It's because the left sold its soul in the 90s, became the sort of third wave movement, forgot about working class communities.
Yeah. You know what my sort of more abstract, metaphysical takeaway on that is?
Yeah.
When you try to help everybody, you end up helping nobody, So maybe, I don't know whether it was in the 90s or in the 80s, but it seems like a natural progression. You start off focusing on more economic issues, let's say, with more socialist inclined problems, trying to find solutions to everyday issues that people have in their daily lives, addressing poverty, addressing inequality, and you incorporate more and more sort of categories of people that you conceptualize need support and need aid, and in the end, the hand of charity is sort of not limitless, especially from the perspective of what you can actually achieve politically and pragmatically in terms of supporting him or supporting her or supporting everybody. So maybe that's it. Maybe they got carried away, like you say. Was it in the 90s? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I think that right now, there's a lack of platform that speaks to, let's say, for the purposes of conciseness, use this cliche, normal people, like average citizens, let's sort of speak. I don't know.
In a way, maybe, but so I don't know if you've heard of a group called, there's a film called Pride, based in the UK, and I mentioned it earlier. There was the miners' strike, which was one of the major strikes between the Conservatives and Margaret Thatcher and working class communities. She wanted to close all the coal mines. The group that helped this miners the most were actually gay rights groups. The gays and lesbians help the miners. Pride covers it. And it turned out that the miners' unions then helped them push for gay rights later. So there is a way in which the different groups can work together.
I don't disagree at all on that.
Yeah. But I think the key difference between that was that those were both working class groups. They kept the idea that class was what unites them.
Yeah.
The whole point was the gays and lesbians help the miners they were struggling financially because they had been kicked out of their homes. They were living in each other's flats, and they were also suffering from the AIDS crisis, right?
Yeah.
They saw the same levels of deprivation in the mining communities. And now a lot of people who are struggling, can be minority groups, but the left in particular just gets scared when it comes to helping, at least in my view, people can disagree, but it gets scared in helping, say, the working class white boys who are suffering in education. They really are. It is actually a problem.
Do they get scared because they're white and they're boys?
I think they get scared because they were worried that it would look like they're focusing not just on white people, when in this case, these are those people that are struggling to go to universities, these are people that are being left at home, and therefore these are the people that are turning to more radical,
to more radical right-wing groups. I mean, me being more right-wing myself, I don't necessarily argue that that's a bad thing, but there is a level of extreme to this which should be avoided on all fronts at the end of the day.
Well, can I just say, of course, this is for the left. It would be bad because that's why we're losing. But of course, for you, it would be.
I have a different way of conceptualizing it, which is not necessarily something that we need to talk about right now because we've sort of unpicked this other topic. But specifically, from the perspective of the left, like it's a huge reason why you lose positions. Not you specifically, I mean in general.
And it might be me. It might be all my fault.
Yeah, maybe. You're a Stalinist after all. We've established that quite clearly throughout the course of this conversation.
Oh, there are actually Stalinists in the UK. They go around on May Day holding a huge picture of Stalin. But
well, that's cute in the UK that they're Stalinists. Is what it is. But no, the point is, there is a way to reconcile both, and if you're the party which fulfills the function of building platforms and finding ways to support people in matters of social inequality and sort of preserving a certain balance that needs to be preserved in society, you can't start separating the disenfranchised, like you say, the poor white boys, but we can't give them too much attention because somebody might think that we're giving somebody that doesn't deserve that attention the attention that they're deserving. At the end of the day, if somebody is suffering and somebody is struggling, and if you're a genuinely left-leaning party, then why would you be? Charity does not pick who to help if it's genuine. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is true, and it's a very annoying thing. I think the left, in particular, does. I think the issue we have in the UK is the left-wing party doesn't seem to socialists seem to ignore this. And yes, black Caribbean are suffering more on education, but it should also focus on the white.
Doesn't mean you can't offer other types of support to other types of people, you know?
Exactly. Whereas, at least that's how I see it. I feel it's been ignored. I think Rotherham, which I won't go into detail, people can look up the Rotherham scandal, is a prime example where we can ignore working class people. Then you've got the what was I going to say? Then you've got the right wing parties, which, at least in the UK, I don't. Of course, there's difference in other countries, but the Conservatives like to talk about it, almost just as an argument against left. But nothing's been done. This has remained an issue, and we end up in a situation where people in the north, going back to the north-south divide, the north and northeast, they're not able to leave there. They're stuck there. And this, of course, also affects working class women too. They also get stuck there, but to a slightly lesser extent, at least if you look at statistics, but they certainly have big problems. And then resentment builds, and then people get divided more because they're saying, "Oh, why is there a focus on
what about
minority?
Me?
Yeah, what about me? What I'm in a shit." And then you get to, I think we can agree on one thing: the most annoying leftists who just talk about white privilege.
Yeah, they're delusional people. That's an extreme,
hate the term.
You know?
Yeah, that's the extreme. Every group has extreme. I don't want people to judge the left by extremist group, but they're so loud and they're so annoying, and they are saying to people, or at least maybe they don't mean this. I think in most cases they're just trying to make a point about other matters that have existed in the past. But to go through the process where you talk on TV and say people are privileged, when you can look around the UK and see they're not. It's just such a London-centric view. I think that's actually the solution. I think that's my answer. The left in the UK is focused too much on London, and the right looks slightly outside of London, but it's still very focused on London. The issue in the UK is it's London-centric. And there are issues in London that still regress, Grenfell in particular, but yeah, I think that's my summation. There we go. I think that's the best answer.
I think that's a pretty good summation, man. But no, like, if you're one of the poor white boys you grow up in an impoverished area, and like your family is struggling to make ends meet, relying on social benefits, and all your friends in school, a lot of them get into all sorts of crime and narcotics at a very early age, and then some woman on TV says white privilege this and white privilege that, you're going to be sitting there thinking to yourself, what fucking privilege do I have, man? Fuck you, you know?
Yeah, I think this is another US import. Yeah. Honestly, I think the UK is far more class divided than anything else.
Builds resentment, like you said at the end of the day, you know?
And we wonder why people say that the left don't care about working class people. It's because we give off the vibe. And I said, I'm actually quite left-wing personally. I am. I was a supporter of the left of the Labour Party, but it's just, it annoys me. It really does annoy me.
Well, you have to be the change you want to see in the world, which is maybe why you've decided to involve yourself in the whole thing a bit more directly.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's weird. In some matters, I am. Like, people have called me conservative for bringing up ideas, which is so weird to me. It really is, because I get told you keep bringing up, that there's. It's only happened once or twice, I will admit. It's not been a major thing, but I do get people who I consider comrades, who come to me and say, why are you focusing so much on working class and boys in the north of England, particularly. And to me, I'm just sort of shocked by that. When I mention it, it's kind of a bit weird to me. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just two cases. It could be a coincidence, but I have dealt with that. It's very weird. I guess I'm a conservative leftist. I guess that's my that's who I am now.
Well, isn't who would you be focusing on? You're a white boy from the north of England, from a working class family. Whose issues would you understand better? Because I think there's a certain hypocrisy to people who presume that they can speak on behalf of other people about other people's issues. If you get what I'm saying as well,
I think that's also another issue. The Labour Party recently has selected loads of candidates that are all from north of London, went to Oxford or Cambridge, and they're going to be representing, they're going to be standing in a northeast town. To me, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Is what you said. We're sending not people in the local area to stand. We're just sending whoever the party leadership wants to send. And the Conservatives are not unguilty of this. They certainly do it. But at least in 2019, they did put up some people from the local area.
Yeah.
They did do that. And I think that's why they won, because for once people saw, this is someone who speaks like me, who knows my problems, It's just, but now they've gone back to the same things as they did before. Yeah, it's just frustrating. I feel like we're going in circles where one party says, we are going to care about the working class. And I do generally believe the Labour Party has in the past, and I do believe Jeremy Corbyn certainly, he has loads of issues, and we'll not get into it. But I think there was a direction which was going, but it was lost because of Brexit and other matters. But we end up in cycles where one party pretends to care about the working class and listens to some stuff, maybe gets some talking points. People think they represent them. Then when they get into power, they do not. And I think it's happened with Tony Blair. It's happened with Boris Johnson. And we end up with the same ghouls in charge. So, yeah.
How do people feel that are politically active like you when you tell them that you were and are still a Jeremy Corbyn supporter? Do you get negative reactions?
I'm not a Jeremy Corbyn supporter in the sense I supported his policies. I think the man had issues, but I don't tell people that anymore. Because the Labour Party has pushed out people who support these sort of policies, and they might push me out on this video. If they do, whatever. But it's but they're having people who generally had reasons to be pushed out. Don't get me wrong, because there was some people who went into anti-Semitism, and that was very dodgy. But the name of Jeremy Corbyn is so toxic now in public debate that the left that supports Jeremy Corbyn, which is there still are a good sizable amount, not enough to actually run for anything, but a good sizable. They've started treating Jeremy Corbyn like a messiah. They hold on to him. Remember, Jeremy Corbyn's been kicked out of the Labour Party himself.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? They're latching onto him as a messiah. It's just become a fan club, a what if scenario, because he almost won in 2017, didn't quite. But the reason why I was a fan of Jeremy Corbyn's policies was it was the first time I saw the upper class, the people in charge of Britain, genuinely scared genuinely scared that things were going to change. They were actually terrified. And if they were terrified, that makes me confident that those are policies that could actually shift power away from them to other people. It might not have been perfect, but it would have been a really good step. I don't see any other politician threatening the interests in that way. Nigel Farage did a bit, but then Brexit became something which was very manageable, very easy to control, just shift assets around. But yeah, it's just, that's what I wanted. I just want things to change
at the end of the day.
Yeah. Even though I'm actually quite lucky. I have a decent job. I still rent, still can't afford a house, but things just have to change. And I think people who are on the left and on the right, all over, I think while they may disagree with the causes, I think they both see the symptoms in very much the same way.
Yeah.
We're seeing it. Some people can't afford to keep families. People can't afford, to buy a house. People are being left behind. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, whatever. These issues are affecting everybody now. And it can't continue as it has, essentially. Well, hang on. Anyways, I think that's probably where I'm going to have to leave it because it's getting close to 3.
Yeah. I know you have to head off. And I think we've had a very complicated talk. I hope I didn't push you into topics which were a bit too complicated for us to properly discuss in the context of today's meeting.
I think there's people who, if they do watch this, they could certainly point out some flaws or holes we've covered. But this is the best I could do without prepreration.
Hey man, fuck it. Like, we're giving our opinions here. We're not pretending to be experts or sages or messiahs, about think these are things that we're interested in and we have our perspectives. What's so wrong about that at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. But
before you head off, one last question.
Sure.
Favorite H.P. Lovecraft novel?
You know it. Okay. People don't know I love Lovecraft. My favorite that I've read, I think, is At the Mountains of Madness. I really like that one. The idea that he goes into how these creatures have unevolved. They actually become decadent over time, and it's a really interesting work. But for people who are just for the first time trying to get into Lovecraft, because it's a very dense book, he writes in a very dense way. I think you've just got to go with Shadow over Innsmouth, which is all Dagon. Dagon's a really good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love those stories. I absolutely.
Which one is the first you read?
Sorry?
Which one was the first you read? Like when you were a kid or a teen? What's the first book from Lovecraft?
Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu. I loved that book. I've also read Nyarlathotep, which is a very cool short story. But before that, I read Edgar Allan Poe. I'm a classic horror guy. I love horror. There's nothing better than reading a story that gives you goosebumps, because it's easier to make someone scared with a picture. Just do a jump scare, boom, right?
Yeah.
Or with a music. The hardest thing you can do is get someone terrified by reading a story.
Through atmosphere, that's real horror, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Do you like Edgar Allan Poe also because your full name sort of sounds similar, because you're Edmund Allan Moore? My mom still calls you Edgar Allan Poe, by the way.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, because she heard you getting introduced at graduation, Edmund Allan something. She just remembers Edmund Allan Poe.
Yeah. Well, I'm not Edmund Allan Cheng, so it doesn't quite ring the same. But I do like Cheng in my name because people think I'm Asian sometimes, which is incredibly funny. I introduce myself, so yeah, I'm Ed Cheng Moore, and they say, Ed Cheng, what's that? I said, it's Taiwanese, and they say, about 3 times I've seen someone go, I see a bit of Taiwanese in you.
Yeah. Because they have no idea what the fuck to say. The British politeness when it goes wrong is what that is.
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. But
I do see a bit of Taiwanese. Where, man? Where, mate?
Oh,
Which part is the Taiwanese part in your mind?
just to be clear, like my ancestry, the most exotic parts are Scottish and Welsh. I'm the most British guy ethnically.
You're Celtic through and through, my friend. You know.
Oh, and
Ever been to Stonehenge? You feel the spirits when you go there, or so?
Oh, I do want to go to Stonehenge during the summer solstice. That's crazy. There's a guy who thinks he's like King Arthur reincarnated, and he leads the ceremonies.
There's a guy like that.
Fun. Yeah, he kept running for election in Salisbury, I think. Yeah, he's called King Arthur Pentadragon.
Wow.
He thinks he's a reincarnated version of King Arthur.
For real.
But yeah, this country's full of strict. There's a lot of pagans still in the UK. Your Orthodox Christians didn't get them all. I see the icon behind you. You didn't get them all. Some of them still exist here.
There are a lot of pagans here as well. You know, people who get very enamored. Maybe one day I'll tell you about them. They get very enamored. You know how Orpheus, the Thracian singer, was from Bulgaria, and Spartacus as well, and people get very deep into that, like the Thracians and the ancient Thracians and the magic of that. Less famous than King Arthur, but still, you know, quite avant-garde, let's say.
I think you get a lot of people into this stuff, and they always tend to be very right-wing or very left-wing as well. You never get a centrist pagan, I found.
Yeah.
You never get a pagan who's a fan of Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, bro, I don't want to hold you up.
Sure. Well, we'll end the recording here.
Okay.
And, awesome.